Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Prog Report podcast. It's a very special episode. We wanted to get together and do sort of a quick impromptu episode here on the 10-year anniversary of the Progressive Nation at Sea cruise, which occurred on February 18th, 2014. It's a lot of us that are on the Prog Report were on that cruise. We didn't know each other at the time, and so much has happened since. It's pretty amazing. So we have Prog Nick here, and we have Kyle Fagala, and actually together in Los Angeles is Kyle Graves and Daniel Levy, who Daniel's touring America, and he happened to be with Kyle as we decided to do this podcast. So they have a few minutes to join us, guys. Before we get started into a whole roundtable discussion of what the cruise meant to everybody and everything that's happened since, we have you guys for a limited time. So tell us what it meant to you, some of your favorite moments, and just talk about it.
I'll go very quickly because we're live from the Funko Pop Museum in LA. See, the stars are here. We're here in Hollywood, baby. Anyways, I'll say that one of the most memorable moments, and I know one of you guys are going to mention Into the Blue as we sail away. It's the one moment that everyone connects. But also seeing Neil with Spock the first time for me was really mind blowing, and seeing them do the light was honestly unforgettable. So many awesome moments in that, like Daniel Les Payne on Salvation. We all thought it was gonna be weird, but it was great. Man, go Kyle. I have to think more.
So after seeing Pain of Salvation in a small club, that was amazing to see him up that close, even though Daniel wasn't there. The guys soldiered on, and it was friggin' great. Mm-hmm. But I remember pushing my way up front and being right there and watching an amazing Daniel-ish show. And then I get a text from Mr. Portnoy who says, "Meet us in the atrium now." And went running down halfway across the ship and for the little Beatles thing, the impromptu Beatles jam. Absolutely.
The impromptu Beatles jam. That everyone was at but me, apparently.
Which
I missed that one.
Kyle told me about, I think by way of Marcel, the photographer from Australia. But
I was down in the bar and I happened to notice Portnoy in the corner, and he got a call from Neil Morse. And you could just tell that he was talking about something special and impromptu that was going to happen. And so my cabin mate and I followed him, and he went down to the bowels of the ship, and there he met Neil and Al, and it all happened. Amazing moment.
Yeah, man. So you were stalkers.
Yeah, stalker moment.
Exactly.
But Kyle and Dan, did you guys know each other, or did you even meet on the cruise?
No.
I don't think any of us knew each other. That's where I met Fagala, dressed as Mike Portnoy.
I knew Fagala before. I met Kyle almost a year before that. Right, Kyle?
Yeah, I think it was probably like 7 or 8 months before at the Flower Kings Transatlantic
NMB show. Yeah.
NMB show. Yeah.
In the Caswick Theater, right? That's where we met.
Yep.
So I knew Kyle, but I didn't know a lot of the guys, and it wasn't like we were friends and hanging out all the time. We just bumped into each other on the cruise like a couple of times, and that was it. But man, it's crazy to think and look back at all those videos and pictures and see that a lot of us were standing side by side, and later we would go on to become great friends and do all these projects together and Prog Report and everything. But thinking back is just insane. Yeah. So yeah. A very memorable week. I'm very glad I did go, because it made me even more of a fan of Prog than I was back then. And it turned me into a really dedicated fan. So I started going to a lot of shows and meeting a lot of people.
Traveling the world.
That's definitely what led me to Morse Fest and to meet you guys. And
yeah, I mean, it all started from there. It really did.
Yeah, that's the seed for sure.
And one more super surreal moment for me, I'll just share this because we got to jump off.
Yeah.
Is swimming. We had a beach day at what was that place called? Coco Bay or
I don't remember, man.
Coco Cay?
Well, probably.
Anyway, I'm a huge Pain of Salvation fan, so I'm swimming in from the ocean. The guys in Pain of Salvation are wading out into the water, and we just start chatting. And they're way more interested in me living in Los Angeles than I'm thinking, hey, I'm hanging out with the guys in Pain of Salvation. This is great, and they just kept asking. They seemed to be enamored with the fact that I'm from LA. So we talked more about LA than we talked about you. That was a really surreal moment for me.
Okay, guys, now we gotta go. But
all right, hey, enjoy your trip.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining us.
We'll watch you later. Bye. Thanks
for
watching. Woo! Subscribe.
See you guys.
I think
Oh,
it was
that was
actually
fun.
Great Stirrup K, is I think what it's
Yes,
called.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, because we're on the
You-
Norwegian Pearl, I think.
Yeah.
So
Correct.
Vic and I actually roomed on this ship with another friend of
Really?
ours,
Okay.
and it it was really one of those things that I'd never done anything like this. I would normally never go on a music cruise or anything like this, but the lineup was just so insane
Yeah, you couldn't
that
miss it.
it was like curated for our people. I mean, it was
Yeah.
amazing. And I had just started the Prog Report, and I really didn't know what it was going to be or anything, but it was, it was a really cool opportunity to try and do something. So, we made up a bunch of shirts and handed them out, and then we made door hangers and went up and down all the cabins and hung them on every door, and and really connected with a lot of people, and our following really grew from there. So it was a significant event for the website and myself more than anything. I mean, it was crazy. And then, of course, as I was walking by, Nick, you stopped me. I didn't know you then, and you said, "I listened to you from South Africa," which was shocking. So I mean, it was crazy all the way around. But yeah, I think if I was going to go by moments, I mean, the Sailing Away transatlantic gig was definitely just crazy amazing. But then the last night, no night of anything can ever be topped. I mean, we went from, I think it was seeing Thank You Scientist, who were added on sort of later on, right? So Thank You Scientist, to seeing Spock's Beard with Neil. And then,
Which Thank You Scientist, the audience was forced to sit down at one point. But anyway,
yeah, it
that's
was like,
aside.
it was barely a stage. It was nothing. And then from then, I think we went to see the Spock's Beard reunion with Neil, where they played June and the Light and a bunch of stuff. And then from there, we went to see Transatlantic do their closing out show with all the Stranger in Your Soul and all that stuff.
John.
And
John
then
Anderson.
and then the set with John Anderson, where they played Yes and a bunch of Yes stuff, and ended with Starship
B-side
Trooper.
of
And
Topographical.
I mean, that night your head was spinning. We were just exhausted by then, but it was
I went so
awesome.
crazy when Neil joined Spock's on stage that I actually jumped so high that I connected with Alan's guitar and cut the top of my head. I mean, I just went berserk. I was so excited. There was moment after moment after moment of just special prog memories.
Yeah. So for what it's worth, I mean, there's a million stories from that cruise, but my initial memory from that cruise was showing up, not really knowing what to expect. I was with my older brother and my best friend from all time, Kyle, and we were all fans of this music. And we showed up at the hotel the night before, because there was that like night before thing. And we sat at the bar and we looked to our left, and it was Adrian Belew. It's a wildly famous progressive musician, and we're like, hey, how's it going? And carried on a 30-40 minute conversation with Adrian Belew. I think anyone who was on that cruise probably had their own 30 or 40 minute conversation with Adrian, because he was always out and about. And what's interesting is I was saying this before we got on, about a week ago, I read an article about him and how this was 2014, he'd had a really terrible 2013 where he was going to be part of Nine Inch Nails, their touring band. Trent Reznor really wanted him on there. He had him on some of his previous albums. He was a huge, fan of Adrian Belew and his playing, but it didn't work out with the band that he had for one reason or another. So he was fired from that band about 2 weeks into the process. And then he came back and he was fired by Fripp from King Crimson. And so you could imagine that was a low point for Adrian Belew. And so this was kind of on the heels of all that. Like, he decided, you know what? I'm still Adrian Belew. I'm going to have my trio. And he had a killer band on this cruise, if you recall. And so there he was sitting at a bar, and we're like totally in awe of this man, for everything he's done, talking to him and not knowing whatsoever that he was dealing with kind of this, this emotional kind of turning point of his career. And we were just like, oh my God, it's Adrian Belew. That same night we went on and had, a glass of wine with Billy Sheehan and Derek Sherinian and Max Portnoy was there. I mean, like, it was this weird like moment where you're bumping into these people who are your heroes. That, for me, it was the first time where that was like a thing. And now it's sort of like, commonplace, let's say. And we've had all the Morse Fest, we've had all the other stuff. Like, being a part of a podcast, like people kind of know who you are or whatever, but like that was the genesis of all that. And there's a lot more to say about that cruise, but that was really like the first coming out on getting to know your heroes. And that's how
And
I
it all
got to kind of,
started the night before the cruise.
yeah.
Somehow I ended up in the hotel that everybody was staying in. That's where I met Cesar, our good friend.
Yep.
And I was sitting in the bar, and Adrian Ballou just walks past me, and I say hi, and he comes over and he starts engaging me. And soon after that, this lady with blonde hair beckoned at me and called me over and said, "Hey, would you sit down? I'd like to ask you a question," because I was wearing a progressive rock T-shirt. And I said, "Yes, ma'am." And she said, "What exactly is this prog thing? What exactly is it?" And I said, "Okay, well, first of all, my name's Nick." And she said to me, "My name's Marlene." And I'm going, "Surely not, surely not." And it was Marlene Portnoy. That set the tone for the whole thing. And then star after star after star would just engage you from the night before. It was just incredible.
Yeah.
Never forget it.
So I had been reaching out to Inside Out for, to get on their radar for, promos and to interview people and stuff like that. And they were key in adding bands to play on this thing. They're on the poster, as sponsors and the whole thing. And of course, Mike's involvement with them and the whole thing. And so we ended up doing a thing on the Prog Report where we did daily posts leading up to the cruise, promoting it and doing posts about each band that was going to be on it. And we did an interview with Mike to help promote it. And so it was sort of like our little way of trying to help this thing along. And one of the cool mementos I have from there is Mike signed a drum head for me at that time on the ship, saying, thank you to the Prog Report for everything, Mike Portnoy kind of thing, which was really cool. And one of the things that at the time was just really, really neat, really, really neat. And then, it's cool to see how it's progressed. And now he joins our podcast every few months, and we get to know him, which is very cool. I also remember Haken really just blowing everybody away and making a name for themselves. That was their coming out party on that ship. I'll never forget Visions by the pool with everybody waving their arms and, that's stuck in my brain. My biggest regret is that I was not aware or a fan of the Deer Hunter yet. And I did not see them because you have to miss someone. There's too many bands. And so I'm bummed. I got into them like right after the cruise. And so that was a bummer. But I mean, how about Devin Townsend's performance with Portnoy, Sheehan, McAlpine, and Sherinian, where Burning My Soul, where he made a mockery of that one, which was amazing. That's one of the top viewed videos on our Prog Report YouTube channel. I thought that was a blast. It was so funny.
See, I hated it so much.
I thought it was so funny.
I'm in the Derek camp on that. I thought it was a complete just abomination. but I'm also like I'm an INTJ, in Myers-Briggs, and I like the idea of preparing for and thinking through stuff, and it just felt like Devin totally phoned it in. But I remember
I think it's intention to make a joke out of everything.
Oh, totally. You could see the palpable frustration though on Derek's face, simultaneously with Mike thinking it was hilarious and like exactly what he was expecting.
If you don't know what we're talking about, there's a video on our YouTube channel which you could see. It's Devin with those guys doing Burning My Soul, only he doesn't know any of the words, and he basically just makes them up throughout the entire song, and it's just hilarious.
And sings it kind of like what's the guy from Star Trek, the original Captain Kirk?
William Shatner. Yeah,
William Shatner does a version of Rocket Man where it's Rocket Man. It's kind of like that, but so that is a moment. I mean, it's come back. It's been a point of conversation many, many times since then. So
I have the poster here. I'm going to bring it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that lineup is pretty cool. It's and what's cool about it is it's just sort of it's dedicated to the modern era of prog, where a lot of us like a lot of these bands. So And at the time, I don't think I'd seen. Had I seen any of them live? I don't think so. I don't think I'd
Yeah.
seen any of these bands live.
I'd sing Kings X
Kings of
live,
X.
Kings X live, and I mean, I'd seen a version of Transatlantic, but that's it.
Yeah.
And so it
No.
was just like, I have to go. Like, I remember seeing the lineup and be like, we got to go. And the prices were super reasonable. What's crazy too is they
Yeah.
didn't sell this thing out. I remember that they were like kind of struggling to sell it, which is just bizarre. And I think it's maybe just because it was such a shift in what this
Look, I
could
think
be.
at the time, you're looking at it at the time where a lot of these bands, especially in the US, were not
Yeah.
recognizable names. You know, I mean, Haken, Animals as Leaders will be on the top line of this thing now, you know, I mean, it's very different. If you put this exact lineup together now, I think you'd sell it out in a day,
Yeah.
and it would be much different. So the timing of it, but I mean, look, it meant everything to me. It's a super important event in my life. And not only was it a blast, but really, I mean, it did so much for the website, for me, professionally, and meeting all of you guys, setting that up. Maybe we didn't exactly meet on the ship, but it started that. And
Well,
yeah,
we did meet on the ship, and I've still got
we
that
did.
T-shirt, Roy.
Yeah.
I've got it somewhere.
Like, honestly, look down this list of bands, and the only band that's still not like extremely relevant is the Safety Fire. That's like it. I mean, it is
The Safety
maybe
Fire,
Beerfish is done, but
Safety Fire, I think, had, like, if I remember right, they had just a debut album around the time of this thing, and they were a new band, and then they disbanded after. Nothing ever happened with
yeah.
them. I think
But like,
obviously
you
Next
think
to
about
None
like
disbanded as well.
the Deer Hunter could be like headlining a thing, like Haken could be headlining a thing. I mean, King's X is an enormous band. I mean, like, all these are like huge. Riverside after this is a bigger band. Haken is a bigger band. Animals and Leaders is a much bigger band. Like, it's crazy. Anathema's not a band anymore for different reasons, but goodness gracious, it's a killer line. I mean, Portnoy, Shreni, and McAlpine, that's like no longer, but it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty wild. So
Yeah.
cool. Well, I think that's enough for us to talk about this. I mean, we could go on and on, but it was a lot of fun. We want to hear about your memories of it. What were your favorite bands? What was cool? Something that you got to do? If you want to type it in the comments or let us know. And yeah, any last words, guys? Or are we good?
I would
Just
just say it was the cruise of Jonas Reingold from Flower Kings. He was at every show. He had the best vibe. So kudos to him. I also think just like the ability to see a band like Pain of Salvation literally standing on the stage, like those are the moments at a cruise like this that are just unique. Is that you're seeing them in sort of like non-traditional venues, as it were. A lot of them like smaller venues than really was, in keeping with the level of these bands and the quality of these bands. But it just made it feel so different and so communal in a way that was really, really just unique and cool. And like Haken during their performance, I think like Ray jumped in the hot tub during a drum break in one of the songs. Like, just, it's really hard to put into words how unique and exciting an experience it was. I mean, to see 11 bands in one day is already one thing, but to see like performances that really wouldn't exist otherwise was just really cool. And then of course that leads into like the culmination of having John Anderson playing with Transatlantic, and something that will never happen again. Like, it was one of those moments, and truly like the first time that this really happened as such. And it's happened since then, but yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
just cruising around the Caribbean on this massive ship. A guy from the southern tip of Africa making new friends for life, seeing his favorite bands, who quite frankly are unheard of where he lives, and interacting with them as well on that ship. Truly was a life-changing experience, one I'll never forget.
Yep. Right on. All right. Well, thanks to Mike and everybody that put this together. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. We'll see. And then, and then now there's more cruises. So, and Morse Fest and all these different things, and everything's gone crazy. So, all right, guys, thanks for joining me on this one. We'll see you guys later. Have a good night. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us wherever you get your podcasts, check us out on all our socials and on ProgReport.com for all your news, interviews, reviews, and more. And we'll see you again real soon. Thanks.